Peace and light, family. I hope that y'all are well. Okay, I see y'all in the house. Well, we just started and we see the butterflies and the light bulbs. Okay, butterflies in the
Listen,
sky. I can go twice as high. Take a look. It's in
mm,
that book. It's the wellness
mm,
community. And we
period.
the light bulbs representing for the lighthouse for our special guest. Y'all already know him, so he ain't need no guest. Okay.
Okay, that's right.
Darcel,
I'm a
um,
roommate.
a roommate.
I'm
Darcel
roommate.
Andre. Darcel
Hey,
Andre.
everybody. Peace, y'all. Peace. How y'all doing? How y'all doing? Ooh, child. Ooh, child.
Is the tea hot? Is the
The
tea
tea
hot?
is, listen, hold
Is
up.
it
Do I have a
baby?
the tea is hot? Hold on. I got my little old fan here. I got a fan.
Get the
I got
fan.
one of the fans because woo, it's hot.
The tea is hot. The people are talking. Okay, y'all. MissCleo.com. Miss Cleo doc came on HBO Max. It premiered December 15th, December 15th, which was yesterday, Thursday. The wellness community, we watched it. We had a whole Zoom discussion about it last night. The discussion lasted over 2 hours. Darcel and I spoke immediately after our discussion about how we felt, and y'all, we deemed it necessary to unpack it as a collective here on the YouTube. So the intention of this live is to discuss the Miss Cleo documentary on HBO Max. The intention of this live is to unpack Miss Cleo's background and her legacy. What is the legacy that Miss Cleo left behind?
Mm,
As I
mm.
stated yesterday in the Zoom, multiple things can be true. The documentary covered a few things. It covered her background, it covered her mental health concerns, it covered her actual spiritual gifts. It covered her life moving forward after the whole Psychic Readers Network, the impact that her legacy has had a bit. We're gonna unpack all of that.
Yes.
Darcel, as you watched the Miss Cleo doc, what did you feel?
Goodness. So let's start with this. I still don't know who she is. Can we just start there? Can we just start that she came in a mystery and went out a mystery? I think for me, something that was very striking is that, Miss Cleo, we have all been called Miss Cleo. If you do spiritual work, you got a hair wrap on, you have incense on, they're calling you Miss Cleo, period. So anytime that we have seen Miss Cleo referenced, it's always been like a derogatory. So
It's an
we went,
insult.
it's an insult. It is an insult. And so, you go in and you're already expecting to just see a bold-faced lie. And I think collectively we were rooting. We said, listen, there's something in here. I know, Miss Cleo, there's something in here, girl, that is correct. But when Deborah Wilson started off and said, the story you think you know is not it. She meant that. She meant that. And so I think one of the first highlights for me was how everyone had a different perspective on who this woman was. Everybody that she met had a completely different view. One,
And-
go
Well,
ahead.
see, I think that's natural though. I think that's natural. It reminds me of Kev on stage, right? I love me, y'all. If y'all know me, y'all know I'm a part of the stage crew. Okay, I love me some Kev on stage, Miss Kev on stage, Angel, all the whole crew. Kev on stage talks about how, something that really impacted him is when he realized that who his oldest son knows him as is not the image that his younger son is going to have, which is also not the image that his wife will have, which is also not the image that his brother will have, when people know us, they all know us from the perspective that they experienced us in. So I think that's a bit natural for people to have different perceptions of you based on their own experience. But what is unnatural is the foundation of who you are not being clear. Like
Right.
like where you're from, that's a foundation that should be clear. Who your background, at least a little bit, is a foundation that should be clear. The
Yeah.
foundation of who she was is still a mystery. And much like you, I came in, if you watch my YouTube, y'all know I've been talking about this for a while. I came in rooting for Miss Cleo. I came in very optimistic. I was hoping that she really was Jamaican. I was like, y'all don't think she Jamaican from I think Miss Cleo. I said, don't pull a fan out on me. Don't pull a fan out on me. I said maybe she was born in Jamaica and had been in the US for a long time. So that's why her accent was a little tainted. Then I thought, well, when Max had told us in the group chat before the doctor she was from LA, I said, well, maybe she was born in LA. She spent summers in Jamaica, and then I was being optimistic for the sister queen. I'm rooting for her. I went in rooting for Miss Cleo. I went in hoping for Miss Cleo. And very much like you, I left out like, so damn, Cleo, we were
Right.
rooting for you. We were all rooting for you.
Right.
But for
Right.
you,
Right.
once you realize that all of these, first off, the people having different perceptions, I gotta acknowledge that the wellness community said, Poe, the whole time the chat is going while the doc is playing, Poe, notice that the people who have these different perceptions of her, the white folk, it's clear that her background and her foundation was shaky. Yeah, it was all different kinds of stories. But what's not unclear, what's not up for discussion is the fact that although the background was unclear, them white folk clearly believed whatever she said. They clearly believed whatever.
And the blacks believe none of it.
So
They
how do you
believe
feel
none
about
of it.
that? How do you feel about that?
Well, as the sister said in the doc, who was from the, what was it, the Langston?
The Langston. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, from the Langston.
The
She
theater.
was like, it's hard to fool your own people because there's some extra vetting and some questions that we're gonna ask that people who are mystified by Black people will not. And I think what interrupted the lens of the white people that surrounded Miss Cleo was the very thing that made Miss Cleo successful. It's the white gaze on Blackness that made her successful and made her such an attraction, to where they're like, oh, she's Black. Okay, and this is a Jamaican accent, and and then here we go. We start pulling on all of these images of Blackness and Africa and the voodoo and them all in the woods, honey, doing all of this stuff. And then they're like, oh, she has to be for real, because what we see lines up with what growing up with our supremacist and racist environment has taught us. So it made it more believable because it made their beliefs about Black people true. She was a token.
So I just want to say, Jack said she was a token. Max, who never believed the bullshit, Max said a subway token. I cannot, Max. I cannot, Max. I cannot.
Not a.
Jacob said a Chuck E. Cheese token. I cannot stand the wellness community. Why
Not a
like,
Chuck E. Cheese token.
Y'all are too much. Okay. Because see, look, our sister queen right here. Let me tell you. Dual Goddess Divine Jane was having all the compassion. Like I said, after we watched the doc, we had a Zoom discussion about it with the wellness community. Dude, Goddess Divine Jane had all the compassion for the Sister Queen. She was like, I'm in Florida. She gave a very different perception, and I value that. The thing about it is, speaking to the whites having their stereotypical image of what a psychic looks like, and the black folk being like, we ain't impressed by that basic shit. We ask questions, we got concerns, we not gonna believe it. I definitely found it interesting, and the part that really like hit me in my chest, really like I was taken aback, was how intentional they were with marketing her, how they knew exactly what they were doing. Two things they noted with the marketing: they knew, because they had this prejudice, they knew
Mhm.
when people hear this accent, they're going to think Africa. They're going to think the Caribbean. When people think of Africa and the Caribbean, they think of voodoo. They think of all these mystical, magical practices. So that's perfect. On top of that, she has the look and the approach of a mammy. And when
Yeah.
they used the term mammy, for me, I was like, oh, y'all really knew what y'all was doing. Y'all really played this game. Y'all were very intentional about weaponizing blackness for your own good. Y'all were very intentional exploiting black culture for your own good. The fact that they knew that we could play her into this trope. If anybody who's unfamiliar with the mammy, first of all, I have a whole video on the tropes of black women, including the sassafras, Jezebel, and mammy. Go watch that video and understand all of the tropes and more. With the mammy, right? Mammy is supposed to be nurturing, caring. She is the matriarch. She's the one who takes you under her wing and cares for you. You can suckle on her boobs. She'll teach you everything she knows. That is the mammy. Call me now for your free reading. Arms open wide. Come here. Come be my baby. I'm going to teach you. I'm going to talk to you. I'm going to take care of you. The fact that they fed into that trope intentionally, that really, really, that just hit me. And that for me made me feel like, okay, so y'all intentionally used this sister, because as I said, multiple things can be true. I believe Miss Cleo clearly had a gift. There
Yes.
was multiple testaments that Miss Cleo had. She could connect with ancestors. The guy said, his friend was there. She told his friend, if something is gonna happen with the left side of your body, you're gonna experience a numbness. 2 weeks later, he had a stroke. So it's clear that Miss Cleo had some sort of gift. Some sort of gift. There was multiple testaments to that. That's one truth. Another truth is Miss Cleo also had some type of mental health concerns, right? That's another truth,
Mhm.
because they highlighted the fact that she had multiple identities that she named. That, and I'm not trying to pathologize, I'm not trying to diagnose anybody. I'm just
Yeah.
saying that's a sign of dissociative identity disorder. A
Right.
third truth is Miss Cleo had some scammer in her damn bones. She was a little bit of a scammer. When she ran off on the Langston folk, you scammed.
With
Okay,
the
so she
coins.
she
She
was
said, I'm
scamming
not paying
before.
y'all coin. I'm disappearing, and all I got is excuses as to why
All
you
I got
can't
is
do it.
excuses. So there's multiple truths that can occur. But the
Yeah.
fact that we could hold Miss Cleo accountable, but we also gotta hold the Psychic Readers Network accountable for their intentional exploitation of a black woman, their
Right.
intentional scammerization of the
Yes.
people. Now, Darcel, when the documentary started out, they was it started very clearly with letting us know, hey, Miss Cleo, as I said, one of the truths, Miss Cleo had a little background of scamming. When the Langston sister was talking, the people, it was two sisters and a brother, and they was talking, and they said, "Hey, we knew her as your Ray. That's the name we knew her by. We called her Ray for short. You know, back then she didn't have no accent, okay, but she
Mm-mm.
was good at going in and out of characters, at writing these characters. And Miss Cleo was actually a character in one of the plays.
Yes.
How did
Yes.
you feel when you heard that?
So, coming from the background of theater and of writing and of acting, there is an exercise that we do that's called Viewpoints. And in Viewpoints, you literally move around this space, understanding physical posture of characters and tone and speech and pace and movement and everything to really delve in and become that character. And so, because this was a character that she wrote, she knew this character in and out. She did the character analysis. That's one of the first things you have to do as an actor and as a writer. You need to break down, take each character, figure out how they move, who they are, their personality, where they come from, all of those things. I believe that when we later found out how she was completely changing identities, as in the sister woman who we found out was her partner, said she will walk out of the room and come.
Max, Max, I just want you to know that the Shango shaman, Jamaican shaman, is
It's
watching
coming
you right
for
now.
you.
She's
It's
coming
coming
for
for
you.
you.
Max,
I am screaming. But when, and I think wasn't the, and it's funny that Max showed up because that was the name of one of the identities, Max. She said she said the sister, she said Miss Cleo came into the room. The tone was different, the accent was different, the facial expressions were different, the body was different, the stance was different. And I feel that her history in acting further helped her scheme, because multiple things can be true, helped her scheme, helped her con, but also exacerbated the alleged mental health and identity crises that she was having.
thank you, Darcel, because see, we needed that theater perspective. We
Yeah.
needed that. We needed to understand how some folks actually fully take on these characters and they, you know,
Mhm.
they become them. But I put this comment up here, okay, but by T. McDougal, personality disorder or invocation. Y'all, we
Mm.
talked about this in the Zoom last night. I don't ever want y'all to confuse a personality disorder like DID, this dissociative identity disorder, with mounting. Those are two different things, right? Oftentimes there will, and this is why I said, you know, some folks be having psychosis, some folks have mental health issues, and you confuse it with spirituality, and you're not getting the help that you need for your mental health issues because you want to believe that this is a spiritual gift, and it's
Yeah.
not. Now the thing with invocation, right, and to invoke means that you called on an energy, you go through certain processes to receive this energy, and then that energy could potentially mount. That energy could potentially take over, and you become that energy for a moment, right? Or for some folks, it's long term. That's very different than someone living a character their whole life. That's very
Absolutely.
different. The fact that I could see how somebody is like, well, maybe, you know, it's clear that she had a spiritual gift. Maybe she had invoked this energy. Maybe she was mounted. We have to remember that this Miss Cleo character that
She
she
wrote it.
carried out, she wrote that.
She
That's
wrote
not
that
a
character.
that's not a spiritual energy that she called on. She
She
wrote that
wrote it.
character.
She
She
wrote
wrote,
it.
you know, so I think we have to be mindful of that. There's a very big difference, and I don't ever want folks to confuse the two, because there's a
Yeah.
lot of folks out here right now, y'all, who think that they have a spiritual gift, and really you have a mental health concern that you could get help with. I cannot tell
Absolutely.
you how many times I've had consultations with folks and they are really suffering from paranoid schizophrenia, and they think that there's people around them watching them, and there's people trying to do this and do, and they literally, you can see it in their eyes that that's not spirit. This is something mental health going on right here. And you need a different type of support that I can't give you. Okay.
Yeah.
So we got to be mindful of that. But the thing is, you know, if even with the consideration that this sister has some mental health, right? Because I do want to know, and we have to acknowledge, we would be failing her if we did not acknowledge the trauma.
Right.
We don't, because of these different identities, because of all these different storylines, we don't really know for sure what is true. And that's why in the beginning Darcel was like, we kind of left with more questions than answers, because there's so many different stories we don't know. But what was consistent across the stories is trauma.
Absolutely.
So we don't know what the trauma was, but clearly it was some type of trauma. And oftentimes, when people have these multiple identities, they have, some folks with DID, it's a coping mechanism to deal with the fact that they cannot cope with their authentic self. They
Yeah.
create a new identity because they cannot cope with their authentic self. They went through so much trauma in their actual life that they disconnect from their authentic identity and create new ones as an escape mechanism, as an avoidance tactic. And we have to remember that. So I must acknowledge that clearly Miss Cleo was a sister who dealt with a lot of trauma in her life. Darcel, how do you feel about that?
Yeah, absolutely. In fact, it's even still from the acting perspective. Many actors love acting because it gives you a chance to be someone else. It gives you the chance to be, within, even just for that hour and 30 minutes you're in that show, you get to live versions of life that you would otherwise not be able to express and live out. And it is absolutely true, as I am currently in school for trauma and grief counseling, that at the basis of these disorders, these borderline personality disorder, dissociative identity disorder, it's always trauma that starts that shifts that reality. And this is also why we tell you that when you go into when you are trying, when you just had something traumatic happen, don't run to the spiritualist, don't run to the religion, don't run into trying to figure out what the spirit is. There a spirit talking to me? Can I talk to this spirit? Because you are viewing things through your trauma lens. And you are not addressing what the real issue was. And clearly, Miss Cleo's real issue was never addressed. It was
At
never
all.
addressed because
At all.
she jumped from breakthrough to breakthrough, even later on when she came out as lesbian.
Okay, we gonna get there. We gonna get there because a good dual goddess divine Jane, who said this right here, dual goddess divine Jane. As I said, this was the sister queen in the wellness community who was holding a huge space of compassion for Miss Cleo, and I think it's important for us to do that because as easy as it is to make it an insult, as easy as it is to laugh at her and make her a costume and talk about her. Let's try to practice the empathy and compassion because, again, this is a sister who went through a lot of trauma and she did not get the help that she needed. And that's one thing that's clear. Now, what is the trauma specifically? We don't know. What happened specifically, we don't know. But what we do know is that something clearly happened to get us all the way to this point. You know what I'm saying? And that
Mhm.
us having that compassion for her is important because you don't ever know what could happen to you that could get you to that very same place or a place that's similar. You know what I'm
Facts.
saying? And you would want
Facts.
somebody to have that compassion for you as well. So when we speak of Miss Cleo and we attempt to unpack her story, it's from a place of understanding. We are seeking understanding because she was a part of our childhood. I remember
Mhm.
watching Call Me Now for You. I remember seeing that come up on my TV. I remember, growing up and it being a trope or an insult to say, "Oh, you okay, Miss Cleo? All right, Miss Cleo." It was a thing. So I wanted to understand who this sister was. And one of the biggest understandings I got is that she definitely had some trauma. But again, multiple things can be true because yes, Miss Cleo has some trauma. Yes, she has some mental health concerns. But Miss Cleo also did have some spiritual gifts. So Darcel,
Yeah.
I want to know And as I already acknowledged in the beginning, there was some folks who was saying, not even necessarily the beginning, more the middle of the doc, there was folks who was like, yeah, she definitely did have a spiritual gift. She predicted this for me. She predicted that for me before she was Miss Cleo. When she was
Yeah.
just who she was out and living, she had done some readings for folks. Also, Miss Cleo said out of her own mouth that she was a voodoo priest, right? And she
Hmm.
practiced voodoo. She showed her altar and all that stuff. How do you feel about that side of it? Do you think that Miss Cleo really did have a spiritual gift, and do you think that she was really utilizing that once she started working for the Psychic Readers Network?
Yeah, I've told people this before, that we do have to be careful when individuals have special abilities or spiritual abilities, because we automatically assign a purity to them. We automatically assign of, oh my gosh, like they're for lack of better words, a good person, they're a trustworthy person in all of this. And that is not true. Just because somebody has spiritual abilities, it doesn't mean that they are righteous.
At all.
And that's something that everybody watching this needs to understand. Just because you see these people and they're calling out dates and people's ancestors, and they're communicating, they're giving all of this information, you can be mystified. You will end up just like the white people, mystified by this, caught up in the gift. and
And
then
that and see, for me,
Mhm.
that's why I didn't want to just say, "Oh, it's the white people, it's the white people, it's the white." The white people believed it because I watch a lot of folks, black folks right now who believe Miss Cleo's. I watch a lot of black folk right now who you see somebody have a spiritual gift and you think that they're a good person. A lot of folks can't even tell the difference between what's a real spiritual gift and what ain't. So, we talked about this last night. I already told y'all, in my personal opinion, TikTok is the new Psychic Readers Network, and it's a lot of Miss Cleos on TikTok, and folks are just falling for it. Folks are just falling for it. So I don't want to make it seem like, oh, only white people we believe in this. Because for some reason, somebody sit here and put on some kente cloth, and all of a sudden y'all think that they spiritual and y'all think they got they shit. Y'all see somebody burning some sage or a Palo Santo stick, and y'all think that they spiritual and y'all think that they a good person and they got their shit together. Niggas be having issues. Folks be off they rocker. Just because somebody can shuffle a deck, I play spades. I can shuffle cards real well. Just because somebody can shuffle a deck and flip some cards and tell you shadow work, go to therapy, that does not
Bye.
mean that that does not mean that they are a good person. That doesn't even mean that they are doing their real spiritual walk. And another thing is, I told y'all this in the Zoom last night. Just because somebody show you an altar don't mean that it's consecrated. It don't mean that spirit is at that altar. It don't mean that that altar is worth a damn. It don't. It don't. Just because somebody
Facts.
got an altar in their house, just because somebody got an altar on they TikTok or whatever, it don't mean that altar is worth a damn. That altar could just be a glass of water, a plate of food, and some damn cards and a picture of who you don't know who the hell this person is to them. It
Let
don't
me
mean that
tell
that
you.
author got any type of blessings on it. Okay,
No,
so don't be impressed by the aesthetic. Be
no.
impressed by the character. Don't be impressed by the aesthetic. Be impressed by the character of a person.
Yes. Yes. And
A lot of
you
folks is confused.
you can only assess that over time, y'all. You can only assess a person's character over time. If you just saw them one day, you should not be giving them all your money. You should not be giving them all your information. You cannot be that naive and that trusting that you don't use no discernment in these processes. Because you see, a lot of these people know exactly what you want to look for. And at the end of the day, I don't know who I'm more upset with, the scammer or the people who keep calling.
Because let's talk about who they said that they prey on. Let's talk about that. They
Yes.
literally said so as we moving through the doc, okay, we already know that Miss Cleo, clearly she identifies as a voodoo priest. Clearly she does have some sort of spiritual gift, but there's also clearly some alarming things about her character because she had a history of scamming folks. The Langston people, the black folks, who she didn't have an accent when she was working with them, but they acknowledged that this woman was an excellent writer. She created these characters. She was cool, but we always felt like something was a little off. She had done scammed them, or she was supposed to pay them, had done ran out on them, told the folks that she had cancer when she really, really didn't, which that came back at the end, and we're gonna talk
Woo!
about that too. Told the folks that she had cancer and she didn't. She had done ran off on the plug. She had done ran off on the plug. So yeah, this woman had spiritual gifts, but she also had very questionable character. And if anybody worth their salt would have done any type of research, they would have immediately said, oh, nah. But see, the Psychic Readers Network, which is the business that she was working for, they didn't care if this woman had good character. They cared about that bag. They cared about that bread. They said they saw her. They said she got an accent. Oh, stereotype. People gonna think that she's gifted because the accent gonna make them think of Jamaica and Africa, and people think of voodoo and all that magical shit when they hear that accent. So, yep, good. And then also she got the mammy energy, so she's gonna be perfect. We're gonna make you the face of the Psychic Readers Network. Call me now for your free reading. Let's get into it. Who are we preying on? Who? Because this is all strategic. This is all, it's a method behind all of this. Who are we preying on?
The
The weak,
desperate.
the vulnerable, the desperate. The weak, the vulnerable, the desperate. At this point, we have other folks who work for the Psychic Readers Network. They're sharing their experience. They're talking about how they used to read off of a script. The script for me sounded very familiar because I'm here. I'm literally scrolling down my FYP on the new Psychic Readers Network, aka TikTok, and a lot of these folks be sounding just like that script. But the part that really got me was when the brother said, not even the brother because he wasn't the brother, but you know what when he said people would really call up here and they would just want somebody to talk to. They seemed desperate. They really just needed somebody to hear them out. He
Yes.
spoke on how they would call about two things. It was usually love or
Yes.
money. And they was desperate. They wanted to know something. And we played on that. Our job was to keep them on the phone as long as we can so they would engage them in conversation because these people just needed somebody to talk to. Go back and watch my video, What to Know Before You Get a Reading. I spoke about all of this. Don't go see a reader don't wait till you're desperate to go see a reader. Don't wait till you are struggling and deep down at your lowest to go see a reader, to go get a divination. Don't wait till you all the way down at the bottom because at that point you are desperate. And anything that somebody tells you is going to resonate with you. Oh, that resonates with me. Oh, that touched me because you are in a desperate place. When you are desperate, family, all of your boundaries are down. When you are desperate, all of your defense is gone. You just looking for help and looking for answers from anywhere. So anything anybody says, you at your bottom, you at your worst. If somebody says you got a curse on you, yep, that resonates. That's probably it. You going through a lot. It's somebody out here who got a soul tied to you. Yep, that's probably it. Somebody praying against you. Yep, that's probably it. Oh, you did something in your past that's coming back and you are losing everything. Yep, that's probably it. Anything somebody tell you in that moment is going to sound right because you just need any type of answer for why you are at the bottom right now. Don't go see readers when you are desperate. You got to treat your consultant, you got to treat your reader like the doctor. Don't wait until you sick down, damn near dead to go get a doctor. Don't. Please.
At this point, girl, it's too late.
It's too late. Well, go see your doctor when you are well so they can have a baseline of wellness for you. Go pick a reader when you are well so they can have a baseline of wellness for you. And that way, if something goes bad, they can say, hey, I know you got the potential to be at least here. So now what's going on that got you down here?
Yeah.
Don't wait until you down here. Go ahead.
And that is so much the truth, because when you are desperate, you don't settle for what you deserve. You settle for what shows up. You see that desperation energy in relationships. When you so desperate to be with somebody, whoever show up and give you a little bit of attention, now they done moved in. So it's that same energy. You cannot go to readers desperate because, let's be clear, the people that you connect to are the people that you attract and accept. And so if you accept somebody, a reader that is going to play on top of your head, you attracted that experience. And any reader, any spiritual leader that is not urging you to get well with self is not somebody you need to be tapped in with. Any spiritual leader that is simply just telling you whatever you want to hear and is not telling you that you need to learn how to trust yourself and develop that trust. And if you are not interested in developing your trust in self, you are not on no good spiritual journey. That's the whole point. You're supposed to be getting in alignment with your intuition. And it is perfectly okay to get a reading, but some of y'all are serial customers. You be getting readings every single day of the week and end up at the end saying, I'm confused. Well, of course you are. Of course you are. Of course you are confused. You are searching everywhere other than self for your answer. So you have to learn how to get well with self first and then connect to a reader. Because I can tell you right now, even as a reader, if you come to me with this energy of desperation and you are over the place, this reading, even from my experience, is going to be frustrating because I am picking up on all this chaotic, all over the place energy, and that's what I'm going to address because that's what's showing up here. So you've got to, and I'm telling you, these people, we're talking about it on TikTok, they're not tapping into nothing. You so desperate to hear a message that people are sitting here shuffling index cards and telling you any old thing.
Dark cells.
Okay.
Let's give it the disclaimer, y'all. So disclaimer. Last night in the Zoom, our sister Queen, who's in the wellness community, Lenitra, she talked about her personal experience because she worked for the Psychic Readers Network. And I do want to acknowledge that Lenitra gave a great example. She said, in the Psychic Readers Network, there was a person who was, there was a lot of them, they was just reading off the script, but she said there was one sister who was in the corner and she had her bag of bones and she was reading down for real. She was really doing readings. So as I said, in my opinion, TikTok is the new Psychic Readers Network. And this is not to say that everybody on TikTok is not doing real readings. We're not throwing out that generalization. We're not saying that everybody on TikTok is fake and a scammer or none of that. It's some folks who are really on there reading down. It's some folks, but the majority is not. It's a lot of folks on there who's really doing the thing. You know what I'm saying? So I don't want y'all to think that it's everybody. But pay close attention to the examples. Some folks need to go back and watch that doc again because pay attention to what they were saying were problems. What they were saying was in the script. A lot of folks, that script, I see it right now on TikTok. Yeah, they put it in their own words, but all of that, close your eyes and follow the light. And not to say that guided meditation is a bad thing, but that's not a reading.
No.
Somebody shouldn't be doing a reading and they flip a card and say, ooh, shadow work, up, therapy. That's what I recommend. Okay, next. That's not what it should be. A reading is supposed to be detailed. A reading is supposed to, number one, in wellness community, I put 3 points, a 3-point platform of what y'all need to do last night in the group chat. When you are getting a reading, you should never be giving details about yourself and your life. When you are giving a reading, the most you should ever have to answer is yes or no. Y'all need to learn how to hush when the reader contacts you, or when you contact the reader, when it's time for your consultation. Hush. Stop telling them your life story. Stop giving them your background. You shouldn't be saying no more than yes or no. Hush. If they can read, let them read. If they can't, it will show. And they should be giving you details about your life. It shouldn't just be, you went through a lot. Shadow work. Therapy. You had a hard time. Shadow work. There. What was the hard time? Give me some details. What caused the
Mm-hmm.
hard time? Give me some details. It should be some detailed information in that. What specifically is happening? It should be some detailed information with that. If not, y'all, they're just reading from a script. I told y'all I got this as a gift. Somebody gifted me this right here. Again, still. I told y'all this a few videos ago, and it still ain't even open.
Girl.
This gift right here, notice that it says 78 card deck and book for root work. Look, in the book, I'm sure I haven't even opened it. Is yours open, Darcel?
Yeah, mine's open.
Please confirm for me. In the book, I'm pretty sure they tell you what each card means and how to interpret it.
Yes, they
That's
do.
the new script. That's
Yes,
the
they
new
do.
script. It's a lot of folks who are just reading from a script. But
But
because you don't know, you don't know. They're just telling you, they're literally reading directly from the book and telling you what the card says that came about. So
that
that's
is
not
a script.
that yes, that's not an actual reading. They're not tapping into any energy for you. They're just reading off the script. And
That's
y'all
not a
have to
reading.
realize that.
It's a regurgitation. They
A
are
regurgitation.
regurgitating to you what is in these books. And anyone who does readings know that what may be the King of Cups for one person is not the King of Cups for the other person. You will look at, if you are using cards, and let me clarify. There's some people who ain't had no cards, who will stop and look up at the clouds and read you down from what they see in the clouds. People have different ways of doing that, but the key point is, if they're using bones, if they're using tarot, if they're using index cards, the detail is there. It should be specific, and there should be some instruction. There should be some instruction. Because if this is something that is supposed to help you, there should be something that you need to do. And that's one of the things that I have seen a lot, Queen, is that when they'll be doing the readings, they'll just be like, "Oh yeah, it's terrible, it's trash, it's all gonna be terrible." Next. And you like, well, God, is because, truth be told, if the spirit has brought them to you, they have brought them to you in time for you to turn some things around. You have been brought to this person in time to turn and redirect some things. It's going to be a disaster, and we're done. Did she say the girl flipped through the book?
The girl on live picked up the book and flipped through the book. And that's the thing, y'all. It's not that it, even if she did that, okay, because y'all know we always trying to give grace. We always trying to give grace. Even if the sister picked up the book, right, and she read from the book, how does that apply to your life? Where are the details? How does that apply to your life? And this is where the natural spiritual gift comes into play. I always tell y'all, I'm cool with tarot cards. I have nothing against them. It's not my personal thing, but I have nothing against them. My thing is, let the tarot cards be a confirmation for your natural spiritual gift. Tap into the energy for yourself, and then let the cards confirm. So ideally, someone should be able to give you a natural, innate reading from their own spiritual gift, and then pull the cards to confirm what they already told you, and attach the cards to the details that they already gave you. And you shouldn't have to say a word. You shouldn't be saying anything other than yes or no. Yes or no. A lot of folks are not tapping into a spiritual gift. And for me, with Miss Cleo, that was the part that I feel like was a bit disappointed, because again, giving the sister some grace, having some compassion for the sister, I want to believe that when she first went up to the Psychic Readers Network and she applied for the job, I want to believe that she was really hoping that she could use her spiritual gift and actually read people. But I think what happened was the calls started coming in, it all started blowing up. As she said, they would tell her to rev it up. Speaking of the accent, rev it up. And she started playing into the marketing. And, we got to hold Miss Cleo accountable too, because clearly, as I said multiple times, the network itself exploited her. The network itself exploited the people because they knew folks was desperate and vulnerable. They knew the game that they were playing by using her as the face of the network because she was the mammy, because she had the stereotypical accent that would make people think that, you know, she was doing all these things. So they used her as the face to reel people in. And then they had all these other folks behind the scenes reading off these scripts. So the network is accountable. But I got to hold Miss Cleo accountable too, because Sister Queen, you had a natural spiritual gift. You had natural spiritual abilities. That means that you had a connection with spirit. You knew what you was doing was wrong. And she said it. She said that when they told her to say, call me now, she didn't want to say it because when the people would, she knew that when the people would call up there, she was not going to be answering the phone. They were not going to be talking to her. So we got to hold her accountable for that because she played into the part. She played into the role. She knew that she was being used to hook and reel the people in, and she did it. And she did it. So at what point did you choose to sell your soul? At what point did you choose the marketing over the gift? And, you know, I know that some folks is going to say, well, she was under contract. You signed the contract.
Period.
I know some folks is going to say, oh, well, she, you know, they was forcing her to do it. She was not being forced to do it. She wasn't being forced. Some folks try to say, Miss Cleo, even in the doc, she was like, you know, I didn't make that much money because I wasn't filing taxes. It's clear, and also based on the testament of our sister Queen who worked for the Psychic Readers Network, they was being paid under the table. They was being paid under the table. So no, it's not going to show up in your taxes. Multiple people said in the doc that she had bags of money because they was being paid under the table, y'all. Okay, so you was stacking your coin, and let's also, even if you don't want to believe that she had bags of money, look at the damn house. Miss Cleo wasn't living in the projects. Miss Cleo wasn't in the hood.
Wait, and we never heard about Miss Cleo working any other job. So where was Sister Woman maintaining these funds from?
The house was nice. Sister had a front yard, backyard, and side yards. Land all around.
Wait, not side yards.
Had the side yards. I said, sis got a side. I ain't never seen a side yard. Sis got a side yard. Sis had something happened that you was able to fund this type of lifestyle, you know. And I find it interesting that when the feds came and they blew it up, when the feds came and said, okay, we investigating, they chose to put Miss Cleo in the lawsuit because the Psychic Readers Network was under investigation for a while and Miss Cleo had never been named. But then come to find out that when they had sent a bill to somebody, the Psychic Readers Network sent a bill to somebody to get their money that they owed them. They had forged Miss Cleo's signature allegedly. They allegedly forged her signature, and that's how they was able to incorporate Miss Cleo in the investigation. Now, some folks feel like she shouldn't have been a part of the investigation. She was a victim too because she was exploited. How do you feel about that, Darcel? Do you feel like she should have been a part of the investigation?
I think so, because she was a part of the scheme. She said it herself. Why am I going to say, call me now if they are not calling me? She said that. And so you have to take accountability for being a part of it. Yes, you were exploited, but as you said, Queen, she was not forced to do this. You knew that it was a trick bag because even before you accepted Miss Cleo, you seen how they was just trying to rotate and find somebody, a host after a host after a host. And then you went up here and said, it's me, oh Lord, with my Miss Cleo character that you pulled way from one of your old scripts and pulled that thing forward. So you were fully aware of the trickery here. You came into the same office, seeing all them people there doing the calls and sat down. You passed it every day.
Every day.
And you knew that these people were not psychically gifted. And so to Cynthia's comment, you cannot listen. If you are truly spiritually gifted, and if you are a priestess, especially when you operate outside of integrity, it's gonna get you. It's gonna get you
Every time.
without fail. Just because you get by does not mean you get away. And she did not get away.
She did not. She did not get away. She did not get away with it by law. Okay, because even though the lawsuit was dropped against her, that she was still under the investigation. They still was pulling her cards, and I find it interesting how, and I think this is the narrative for a lot of Black folk who are in the industry, whether it's Hollywood, it's the music industry, whatever. You know, they love you as long as you are serving them. They love you as
Mm.
long as you are serving them, as long as you are fulfilling their need for you. They love you. But the minute they can no longer use you is the minute they will turn against you. And
Mm.
I find it interesting how the media loved Miss Cleo. They loved her. She was everywhere. And then that investigation hit, and all of a sudden, they all turned against her. She could no longer serve them. She could no longer be the face. She could no longer be their representation. And immediately, she was thrown under the bus. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I think oftentimes we some folks get addicted to the fame, and you forget who you are. You get addicted to the intent to the attention, and you forget your intention. You
Yes.
forget what you came in this for. I feel like when Miss Cleo walked in that door of the Psychic Readers Network, I don't know for sure, but I want to believe that the sister's intention was not to scam. I want to believe that her intention was well. I want to believe that she was thinking to herself, I'm going to be able to use my spiritual gift and finally get paid for it. I want to
Yeah.
believe that her intention was well. But as
Hmm.
she stayed in the building, she lost sight of her intention. She got distracted. The
Yeah.
attention blinded her from the intention.
Yeah, because she very well could have been in the mind space of, with this character, I can use my gift and keep myself safe.
Darcy, why you got to keep calling it a character? Why you got to keep reminding us that it's a character, Darcy? Why you got to keep doing Miss Cleo like that? Huh?
The
Why we got
character. Girl, pull up the script. We'll call the Langston people and pull up the script. We need the script.
Darcy? We trying to come with grace.
She
Look,
wrote
look.
it, girl.
Between you and Max, y'all ain't taking y'all foot off of Miss Cleo neck.
We're not.
Why?
Well, we're not, but I get it. I get it, Miss Cleo. I understand you a little bit, girl, but girl, no. It was a character. And
I'm
she
trying to
wrote
have
it.
the grace. Oh,
Uh-oh.
I said you went black.
Wait,
It
wait
says
a minute.
it says no video. You okay? Lord, Darcel and Max ain't trying to give no grace to the sister queen. Okay, you need to go out and come back.
Mr.
There we
Cleo
go.
came and took me out, girl.
Because you spoke ill. Just not look, man, we about to see Max disappear about the comments in a second. You came and you spoke ill of the Jamaican Shango shaman.
And she took
can't
me
do
out.
that.
But
You
y'all, I
know,
don't think we're not discounting the fact that there was a real problem here. We're not discounting that. We're not discounting that there was traumas, that we're not discounting that. But I will tell you this, as someone who is in school for this right now, people, even with schizophrenia, are held responsible for what they do. They are responsible for taking their medicine. They cannot sit up around here and do some off the wall stuff, break the law, and not be held accountable. They are held accountable. So, what is the line? What is the line?
look, not Max agreeing with you down.
Come on. Come on.
Max agreeing with you down. Y'all in cahoots against Miss Cleo. Y'all in cahoots. The thing is, though, I agree with that. I agree with
Mhm.
that. And that's why I said multiple things can be true. I do
Yeah.
believe that the sister has some spiritual gifts. I also believe that the sister has some mental health concerns. I also believe that the sister was a scammer. I also believe that, because she had a history of scamming, and we got to hold her accountable for those things. So I was okay. I was cool with her being a part of the investigation. I said she deserved to be investigated. And if she had nothing to hide, it would have come out as just that. She has nothing to hide. I felt that way. But when they produced the birth certificate,
Mm-mm.
y'all, we were fighting for our life. Like I said, I'm rooting for Miss Cleo. We're rooting for you. We were all rooting for you. I was in the chat fighting for my life. I was like, y'all, shout out to Queen Rising, Sister Queen in the chat. She was like, y'all, I think she's Jamaican. She was like, a lot of my family came over here on fake, or Queen Rising. I ain't trying to out your family, but essentially she was saying that some folks be coming over here on fake birth certificates. I too confirmed that some folks be coming over here on fake birth certificates. So the birth certificate could be fake, but then good old Max. Good old Max. I told you Max was gonna be gone about this chat. Miss Cleo done him Max up. I told you. I don't even see her in the
Miss
chat no
Cleo
more.
trying to take us out of here.
Miss Cleo done took out. But Max came in the chat quickly and was like, y'all, this was a federal investigation. If this was a fake birth certificate, the feds would have called it. They would have caught that this was a fake birth certificate. We was reaching. Me and Queen Rising was trying to save the sister. We tussling. We like, it got to be. Like Max said, Miss Cleo ain't get me yet. Miss Cleo ain't get me. But we was like, maybe it was fake. Max was like, y'all tripping. Max said, use your common sense. Use your common sense. Y'all. They got the birth certificate, and the birth certificate was a U.S. citizen birth certificate. Miss Cleo was born in Los Angeles, California. Miss Cleo was, in fact, not from Jamaica. When the birth certificate came, I didn't even catch it the first time. I watched it again today, and I caught it the second go round. The community was like, nah, they found it. I watched it again today. I was like, oh, they did for real. They did. They really.
They really found it, girl. And then she, one of her stories, she tried to tell people that she was adopted by a Jamaican family. Girl. Oh no, she was adopted by somebody in Los Angeles. She, whatever the story was, we got the birth certificate, and that's how that, listen, that defense, what is that, prosecutor hemmed up her lawyer. Hemmed up her lawyer and said, sir, I hear what you're saying. I heard what you said. But the birth certificate, though, how does this not line up with the birth certificate? The lawyer was like, she speaks in a Jamaican accent like someone would from that region. Sir, the birth certificate.
I said he did the lawyer like they doing Kelsey right now on the Meg Thee Stallion Tory Lanez trial. They said, oh, Kelsey, you said he didn't do what? But the September testimony, you said this. The September testimony. I said, not the lawyer getting Kelsey to understand. Not the lawyer
Listen,
getting Kelsey to understand.
I was like, no. I was cringing.
It was cringe. And that was the moment that I was like, okay, I've been rooting for Miss Cleo. I've been hoping that something is gonna come back and save this sister. And in the end, that was the moment that I had to accept that, okay, something in this milk ain't clean. Clearly.
Right.
Something in this milk ain't clean. So although, you know, at the conclusion of the whole psychic readers network phase of her life was essentially they ended up dropping the lawsuit with the agreement. Max had acknowledged yesterday the real agreement was they will drop the lawsuit with the understanding that she would never be able to sue them, so they would drop her name from it, but the psychic readers network was still held accountable. Also, Miss Cleo went into seclusion. She became a recluse, and she started struggling with depression. They acknowledged her depression. She became a recluse. And after a while, she spent years in her house, and her friends, who were white folks who worked with her at the Psychic Readers Network, and these were the ones who were vouching for her the whole time, right? Her friends really went hard with saying, hey, we loved her. We believed her the whole time. We know that they said she wasn't Jamaican, but the accent never dropped around us. So we believe she was Jamaican. We know they said that, she did this and that, but we know the real her. We know the real Cleo. And they went and got her out her house. They tried to get her back to self. She started going to their Sunday barbecues, which I found interesting. I said, not y'all having a soul food Sunday dinner.
Let's
Not
talk
y'all
about
having a
that.
Sunday. Go ahead. They had the Sunday barbecue ritual.
I was like, come on, y'all. And then as soon as she started to become get around people, then she started to come alive again.
Come alive again. She started
Which
returning to
is
herself.
what also happens with people who assume identities. That's what happens. Now, when was it, Queen? When she was with the roommate that was the activist.
So then Miss Cleo ends up, she's building friends and all of that stuff. And now Miss Cleo befriends someone who is in the LGBTQ plus community. They are activists in the community. They took her to an event, like a parade. I believe it was a pride parade. And Miss
Mm-hmm.
Cleo, she gains this passion to become an LGBTQ plus activist, and she comes out of the closet. Now, for me, I was like, okay, this is the bright end of the story. Miss Cleo, again, I'm rooting for Miss Cleo. So, from my view, I received this as, okay, this was her embracing her authentic self. She was running from her true self for years. This is her embracing her authentic self. She needed this. She came out. She's finally her true self. And then when I'm talking to the wellness community, they said, queen. This was yet another character. She befriended someone who was an activist in the community. She befriended someone that was in the LGBTQ community. And Deidre said, new script, new year. This was a new identity.
Good God.
Then they had like her past lovers speaking on their experience with her. And if whether or not this was truly who she was or not, if this was an identity, she had assumed it. She had fully assumed the identity. And then here come Dual Goddess Divine Jane in the Zoom last night. She was like, I didn't like that part. I didn't feel like we needed that part of the story. We did not come here for that. I don't feel like it was fair for them to even talk about her love life or her history or any of that. Darcel, how do you feel about this? Do you feel like this was an identity? Do you feel like this was authentically Miss Cleo? Or do you even feel like we needed this part of the story?
I feel like we needed that part of the story, and I'll tell you why. For either way, one, that would have been just another layer that Miss Cleo was having to run and hide from her whole life. And in the event that there was any type of sexual trauma or anything going on, we needed to know that she had cut herself off from those type of intimate experiences up until that point. I think that would be just another detail, another layer. It's like, okay, well, she was running and escaping from this. Miss Cleo's in her 50s. How old was she in her 50s when this happened?
I believe so.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, Darcel.
No.
I'm laughing because there's a sister, Vicky, who keep on asking, what's a mammy? Vicky, you missed that part, babe. We went over that in the beginning. We talked about the mammy trope. I have another video on YouTube about it. You missed that part. But my thing is, Deja, Deja said, because Vicky done asked the question a couple times. Deja said, Vicky, Google it.
Google it.
Deja is fed up. Okay, so that's why I'm laughing. But yes, I'm not sure. how old she was at that period when she came out. I'm not sure.
Right, right. And I see people saying that she had daughters. Yes, I'm just saying though, that was another layer. That would be another layer as to why she was running from her reality, because even the white man said, I can't imagine, I'm a gay white man in the 2000s. I can't imagine trying to be a black lesbian in the 70s. So I think that was a bit for her case. But then on the other side, it does give another identity.
Does
it
it?
gives it gives another identity.
See, for
It
me, I agree
does.
with Miss Doe. Miss Doe said it personified her a bit more and explained her complexities or explained the complexities. That's
Yes.
how I was feeling when I watched it. And this also goes to, the thing of two things can be true. You
Yes.
know, there can be a situation where I hear echo. Are you playing it on another device? No, it's me.
No.
Okay. But the
I'm
two
you.
things can be true, right? The thing is, from my perspective, when I was initially watching it, I said, you know what? She came out, she's finally embracing her authentic self. Maybe this is a part of what was unaddressed. Maybe this is the true Miss Cleo, which I think often happens when we are dealing with people who have DID or any type of personality disorder. We are always hoping that eventually they will find their true self and the true them will come out. And any of us who have experience, especially personal experience, dealing with somebody who has a mental health issue. As I told you, I have the personal experience, somebody in my family who has a mental health issue. And I was always hoping that one day she would be better. One day she would be her real self. So when I saw that, I received it as maybe this is her being her real self. Maybe this is her being who she authentically is. That's how I received it. However, there were quite a few others who was like, nah, this ain't her being her real self. This is yet another identity. Yet another identity. This is not her being her real self at all. This is yet another identity.
I'm tired. I'm tired because it's just hard to gauge again. Honey, it is the mystery of Miss Cleo. It is the mystery of Miss Cleo because the children, you will never know. Why was she smiling during the court cases, though?
That's what I said. I feel like she was thriving off the attention. She was thriving off the attention, and that's why I think again the attention overshadowed her intention. It
Yes.
distracted her from what she was really here for. She was smiling, she was enjoying it, she was loving it. And when she went into reclusion, I think for me, and Dual Goddess Divine Jane was like, we don't know why she was depressed. I agree with that. None of us know anything. All of this is alleged. All of this is we don't know. We're not sure. We don't know anything. But we can only suppose. And one of my suppositions, I don't know if it's a word, but it's gonna be today. One
Come
of
on,
my supposes
supposition.
is, one of my supposednesses, one of my suppositions is that Miss Cleo went into reclusion because she was depressed because she was no longer getting the attention. As they acknowledged, the story started to die down. Folks stopped caring. She wasn't getting the attention that she wanted. So when the folks came chasing her down and dragging her out of the house, now she's back to getting the attention. Now she can potentially assume this new identity as an LGBT activist. She can come out and she's back in the newspapers. She's back
Yes.
in the articles. She's back getting the attention that she loves.
Yes. Yes. And honey, she came back. She was on the car at the Pride Parade with the same yellow hair wrap. She had the Miss Cleo hair wrap. Her character was back alive again.
In a new light.
And it is so layered because that's even because she wrote that. Here I go. Character. Because she wrote that character, it's also like from an artist perspective, something that you created blossoming and blowing up, and then now coming back and being hot again. Yeah. And even from her childhood, they were, again, from the perspective of her being tall and always standing out, and so for her to then own that, because that was one thing that was consistent, that everyone said that her personality was huge, that she was just this big booming voice, and when she walked into the space, she was just a large energy, right? And so to have to take that on, and then to be known by that, and then to be completely decimated out here in these streets, you go into isolation and nobody is living for you anymore. She went to isolation probably being herself, her normal self. Good God.
Now, the part that really got me though, shout out to Jacob. Okay, Jacob said, listen, y'all, we want to believe that she had these different identities. We want to believe that it's a personality disorder. Jacob said, I think that when she was switching to the identities, that was her taking a break from the accents. Jacob said, in his Zoom last night, Jacob said when she switched to Max and Geronimo or whatever the other identities was called, that was her being her real self because she was tired of playing the role of Miss Cleo. And I found that I was like,
I am
possibly,
hollering.
possibly. Again, we are all making supposeds, okay? Supposedly, perhaps, maybe, could be.
We don't know.
And that's why we left with more questions than answers. The documentary ended with potentially Karma spinning the block. Karma big with the block. Buster U-turn on the block. Okay, came back and sprayed it up.
Twice. Good God.
2 times Karma spent the block. Remember, Miss Cleo had ran off on the Langston folks, and when she ran off on them with the money, the first big scam that they talked about in the doc before Psychic Readers Network, she ran off with the money. She told the folks that she had cancer. At the end of the doc, Miss Cleo then came out. She's an activist now. She's back in the newspaper. Miss Cleo ends up finding out that she has cancer, and she dies from cancer.
Yikes.
I was like, dang, Miss Cleo.
Yikes.
But see, this is the thing, family. This is for everyone, but especially those, I believe everybody has a spiritual gift of some sort. It's just that some folks have not yet tapped into their spiritual gift. I have a video on how to do that as well. Go look at my spiritual gifts video. The thing about it is, when you are aware of your spiritual gift and you tap into your gift and you enhance your gift and you utilize your gift, you have a certain connection with spirit. Your tongue is powerful. You got to be careful of what you say. You got to be careful of what you do, because everything carries ashe. Everything carries power and intention. Everything is magic for you.
Yes.
When she spoke those words on herself, she essentially, in some ways, was putting a curse on herself. And you got this identity, you created this narrative, you created this lie, you wrote that in your book of life, and it manifested. It manifested.
Good God.
How do you feel about that, Darcel?
Absolutely. And it'll happen to you. It'll happen to you every time. And I'm telling you, when you are acting outside of integrity and you have a platform and you are doing that to the tune of millions of people, all of that is energy, and all of that stacks up and that comes back to you. It just does. It just does. And if she was really a priestess and was playing on that spiritual title and that spiritual assignment, that energy is going to come back. You can get by, but you do not get away. You don't. And it's sad to say, but it was kind of like the how you have the magical Negro character trope where they come from out of nowhere suddenly, drop all this wisdom, and then they just disappear and you don't know. Well, that's kind of what happened to Sister. Nobody knew. You came in magical and vanished.
And see, this is the thing. I want to acknowledge this, right? So I'm not even gonna put it on the screen, but in the chat, um, so the sister came and she was like, "Why are y'all laughing at Miss Cleo? Miss Cleo has feelings." This is what I talk about with perspective, right? Notice how we literally held compassion for Miss Cleo. We talked about how she went through trauma. We talked about her mental health awareness. We said multiple things can be true, but we also held her accountable in understanding that the sister had a history of scamming folks. We talked about a lot of things. The fact that you dismissed all of that to focus on the part that you wanted to focus on, I find quite interesting. And I think that this is often why the problem continues. This is often why we still have the new Psychic Readers Network, where you still got folks who are pretending and scamming and playing. Because sometimes we have a habit of having so much grace and being so forgiving and having so much compassion that we fail to hold those accountable. We
Yes.
fail to call it out for what it is. We fail to acknowledge the totality of a person. As I said, multiple things can be true. Yes, the sister had a spiritual gift. The sister also had mental health concerns. The sister also had a history of being a scammer. Multiple things can be true. And we have the right to hold her accountable for the whole of who she was, as opposed to
Yes.
just focusing on the part that serves us. Oftentimes we do this with folks where we only focus on the part of them that we like, the part of
Yes.
them that serves us, the part of them that feeds the narrative that we want to have for people. And I think with Miss Cleo, as Zarcel said, the whole magical Negro trope, right? Where people want to hold Miss Cleo accountable for just being a scammer. That's the only part they want to talk about with Miss Cleo. But I think this documentary the documentary did a great job of acknowledging that, hey, she had also been through a lot. What the a
Yeah.
lot is, we don't know. We
Right.
don't know because there's so many narratives. The documentary also said the sister definitely had some mental health concerns. Was
Yeah.
there a diagnosis? We don't know. We don't
Yeah.
know, but there was definitely some concerns. The documentary also said the sister was definitely a scammer.
Well, and
What,
then
how much she scammed, we don't know,
we
but
don't
she was
know. But also, what about the feelings of the people who were desperate and really needing help?
that part. Where is your love and your soft feelings and your compassion for the people?
Because them people's was money being spent up, being spent up because they saw Miss Cleo and there was something about what she was dialing up, what she was playing up, what personality or character she took on that made them be like, I can get help from her. What about them who were told stuff was going to happen and it didn't happen? What about them?
What about them? What about the people? So that brings us to, you know, I have two questions. The first question is, now that this documentary has come out, what is the legacy of Miss Cleo? What
Hmm.
is the legacy of Miss Cleo? Because before it was she was an insult, before she was a costume, before, we only laughed at her. Now to me, there's a combination of we still laughing. It's some funny aspects to it, but there's more of a story now. There
Yeah.
is more space for me. There is more space to have compassion for her.
Yeah.
So we could have compassion, we could have empathy, we could hold her accountable, and we can also laugh because multiple things can be true. But for
Yeah.
you, Darcel, what is the legacy of Miss Cleo?
It is a cautionary tale.
Mm.
It's a cautionary tale for those that are not well. to get well, to do what you need to do to get you the help that you need, that you cannot portray it away. You can't job it away. You can't success it away. You have to deal with your
Come on,
issues.
Solange. Come on. And try to pray it
Listen,
away.
you try to pray it away.
I tried to
Try
put
to
my
feel in the
hand.
air.
That's what I
You
thought of when you
can't
said you
do
can't pray
that.
it away. You
You
can't
can't
drive it
pray it away.
away.
You can't drink it away. You can't do any of that. You can't. You
Thanks.
have to deal with it. And when you are dealing with people, you gotta do right. You gotta do right. Because when that thing come back and hit you, it's going to be in a way that you cannot expect. Because let me tell you, the equation gonna equate. It's what you put in it.
Period.
It's
Period.
what you put in it. It's cautionary tale for me. What about for you?
Uh, the thing with Miss Cleo, the legacy that she has is, I agree that it's a cautionary tale. The legacy I feel the most,
Mm-hmm.
understand. Understand.
Mm.
The legacy for Miss Cleo is the warning. Understand what you are getting into before you get into it. The
Yes.
legacy of Miss Cleo for me is beware. Beware. Watch out. Be careful. And not for the Miss Cleos, as you spoke on, the people who are potentially in the Miss Cleo realm. What I wanted to bring focus to is the people.
Yes.
That's who I wanted to talk to. After we had our Zoom last night in the Wellness Community group chat, I said the greatest takeaways are 3 points for the people. I want y'all to beware of the Miss Cleos of the world. I want y'all
Yes.
to watch out for the Miss Cleo. Watch out for the psychic reader networks of the world. Because yes, Miss Cleo was a problem in the situation, and also the business of the Psychic Readers Network was a problem in the situation. The legacy of Miss Cleo is, be careful that you aren't a victim of folks like Miss Cleo and folks like in businesses like the Psychic Readers Network. That's the legacy for me. It's the warning for the people. So yes, I agree with ourselves. Cautionary tale for people who are struggling with trauma, who haven't yet coped with their trauma, who are dealing with creating identities as a means to coping with their trauma. It's a cautionary tale for them, but I also feel it's a cautionary tale for the people. Y'all
Yes.
pay attention to this doc. When on the first watch, you may watch it because you want to understand Miss Cleo, you want to have compassion for her. But the reason I was saying, y'all, this is so layered, and y'all, this is so different, because it for me, it was beyond telling Miss Cleo's story. This was like, hey, y'all, red flags, what to know before you get a reading. As I was
Yes.
watching it, all I kept thinking of was my video I did like a year or two ago, what to know before you get a reading. Watch out for this. When they talked about preying on the weak, vulnerable, and desperate, when they talked about all these people just wanted somebody to talk to. So we would keep them on the phone for hours. And they explained how they was playing with people and how they be playing with folk and using them for their money. When they read the scripts and they talked about this is how we kept them on the phone, and people would call for this, and this is what we would say. I hope that y'all, the people, saw that part. Don't just watch it to understand Miss Cleo. I want you to watch to see how they played the game. Watch it to see how they scammed the folks. Watch
Mm.
how they played into the trope of the mammy, how they played
Yes.
into the trope of the accent. I find it interesting because I always call this out. I always call, and I talked about this when I did the kink video, speaking about Coach Stormy, is a lot of people don't realize that they greet spiritualists and therapists with their kinks. You attach to people with your fetishes and you don't even know it. I notice how,
Mm.
there are a lot of folks where a man, I could say something, a man could say the same thing I say. There are literally men who watch my videos and repeat what I say. And people will be there when the man says it, it's oh yes, we love it, oh yes, when the man says it. You know what I'm saying? But usually the people who are like that, it's because you seek male validation. You're not there for the character. You're not there for what's being said. You're not taking the lesson. You are receiving this from a man because you need the male validation. I watch folks who are into, and not to say that these are bad, like it's bad to have a man who's a spiritualist or a man who's a therapist and also a cussing person. I watch folks who are into the rough, hardcore spiritualists and therapists and all of them who want to curse you out and bitch, you better get off your motherfucking knees, ho. You bitches better da 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 da. And you into that. That's a kink. It's a
Yes.
kink. That's a fetish that you have that you want to, you, in order for you to receive understanding, you got to be cussed out. In order for you to receive understanding, a man got to talk to you. In order to receive understanding, you got to have somebody degrade you. You have a degradation kink. You have a
Yeah.
kink for
Wow.
being degraded. And a lot of folks need to acknowledge that. The reason that you only receive understanding when a man talk to you is because you need therapy, babes. You have daddy issues, probably. You are
Yeah.
a person who needs that male validation and that male compassion. So a man can repeat the same thing I say and you eat it up when he says it. But when I say it, you can't understand it because you need that male validation. Somebody could say what I say and they could cuss you out while saying, I could sit here and say, you know, Sister Queen, you got to think about it like this. Bitch, if you don't get some motherfucking sense in your head, ho, you gonna da 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 da, and you eat that up. You love that.
And they're like,
You
oh,
love that.
she real. She
She
real.
she real. Two people saying the same thing, but because this one is cussing you out when they say it, you eating it up. I like that. And notice, I hope that the people watch Miss Cleo doc and saw how the folks are playing into this. They can
Yes.
recognize quickly when you are weak, when you are desperate. The folks know that you got daddy issues. So I'm going to play into that father figure or that big brother in her life. The folks know that you have a degradation kink. So I'm going to cuss her out and I'm going to degrade her and I'm going to talk to her crazy and I'm going to play into that because she going to keep coming back. The goal is to keep you on the phone. The goal is to keep you spending your money. So I
Yes.
need the folks to, the legacy of Miss Cleo for me is the people learn from this. I want you to unpack your own shit. What are you attracted to in a spiritualist? What are you attracted to in a therapist? Are you being played? Are they just doing what they got to do to keep you on the phone? Are they really reading
Mm,
you? Are they really helping you? Or are they playing with you?
yeah.
That's the
Yeah.
legacy for me.
Wow. Speak, Queen. Speak. But
You
no
know,
lies are told. No lies are told. You are addicted to abuse. And so I'm gonna tell you, I've never once had the spirit cuss me out like that and call me a piece of trash. I never once had not once.
you stupid bitches be sucking. I be like, ooh. And then the folks be in the comments, that resonates with me. Ooh, you so right. You so right. And again, not that there's anything wrong with that, but ask yourself, why are you attracted to that?
Yeah.
Why?
Yeah. And what is also stands is that honesty without compassion is brutality. Period. I can tell you that without needing to re-traumatize you and remind you of your abusers. I can tell you the truth without needing to do that to you. And that is not somebody who is at peace. And I don't care. I don't care. Somebody that is that charged and giving off those type of anger frequencies, that is not somebody who's balanced and at peace. It's not.
That part, Miss Doe. Miss Doe said a real authentic spiritualist or therapist will have you confront yourself. They will
Period.
help you analyze that. They will have these discussions with you about what you are attracted to. They
Yes.
have these talks with you. Okay? So y'all just be careful. You know, the thing about it is this documentary was good. I went into it wanting to understand Miss Cleo. I went into it wanting to know what's the truth of Miss Cleo.
Yeah.
And I left not fully knowing the whole story of who Miss Cleo is, but I got a different perspective on the story. I didn't know that the sister actually really real life had spiritual gifts. I appreciate knowing that. I appreciated the testament of, this is who she was and she really was gifted. But I also appreciated the other side with the background of her being a scammer. So I feel like I got to know more of a sum total of who she was from other folks' perspective, because we got to remember this is all from other people's experience with her. So I feel like we got to know some of that. But above all, I feel like, again, this documentary was truly talking to the people and saying, be careful. It was
Yeah.
talking to the people and saying, beware. It
Mm-hmm.
was saying, hold on. Don't be so quick. Don't move in haste. Don't just believe everything and anything, because we know what we're doing. We know how to get you. We know how to keep you on the phone. If you haven't
Wow.
watched it, go watch it.
Get there.
Check it out. HBOmax, the Miss Cleo documentary. It's a good watch. I love y'all dearly. Darcel, do you have any final words that you want to share with the people about Miss Cleo or
Ooh.
anything?
I listen, you said it all. Be careful, be cautious of yourself and of others. Check in with yourself first, always. Always. Get to know thyself. Know when you are well, know when you are unwell. You gotta tap into self. That's it. Because there's gonna
Absolutely.
come a time when you're not gonna have a Miss Cleo or a Queen Poe or a Darcel or Iani Fatu Call. And what you gonna do? Gotta master self.
You got to master self. I love y'all dearly, family. I will see y'all soon, wellness community. I will see y'all in the chat. Shout out to the Lighthouse. I see y'all with the butterflies and the light bulbs in the chat. We love you dearly. And I will see y'all.
Peace, y'all.
Peace.
Peace.